All right, I'll call this meeting the Brown County Commission to order. We'll start with pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. First on the agenda, we've got Mary Worley and Jean Leschke with the Department of Equalization to discuss the 2017 assessment plan. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Appreciate you getting us a copy in advance.
And do you have an extra copy that I left mine at home?
Just happen to have one, right?
Thank you very much.
I think Rachel might.
Sorry.
I'm good. I found mine.
Okay, good. All right, I'm going to turn this over to Jean. One of the things I've tried to do this fall is kind of really pull my staff in to do things like this that need to be done yearly. I gave them a copy of prior years, and so I won't be here to support these values, but they will be. And so I'm going to turn the explanations of everything over to Jean.
Okay. First off, we'll start with egg property. Egg is going to its full productivity this year. There again, so we will have an increase in crop rated soils of a little over 9%, range rated soils a little over 3%. Like I said, that will get us to the top of the productivity model. So from this point on, we'll be going with whatever the formula gives us. Had we been at the top last year, actually would have come down just a little bit this year. So hopefully we're to a point where it starts not seeing 9% at a time. We'll start seeing some smaller increases or decreases or whatever. We have some
9's better than 25.
9's better than 25, but we still got some high productivity years that have to, like 2012, 13, whatever, that have to get through the formula, and we got some low end ones dropping off at the end. So I'm not expecting decreases, but I'm not expecting 10% every year. And there again, rangeland's been at the range rated has been at the top for a while, and we're at 3.5% there right now. That ag land pretty much comes from a state that's kind of where we are. Non-ag property. Right now, our current median is at 84.25%, so we're a little under the 85% we need to be. So we'll have some increases coming up in our non-ag property countywide. Most of the city of Aberdeen is residential is in the CAMA system, so we are get to a point where we're making pretty small increases or changes in that every year. Ideally, that's what the whole county will be on eventually, so we make small adjustments to big areas every year instead of big adjustments to small areas. But that's kind of where we're at there. Residential lots, or excuse me, seed properties. Let's start with small acreages.
Jean, you had a high in number of sales this year that we've ever had, huh?
Yeah, it's been a pretty active market, and I guess that's a good thing. Gives us good numbers to work with. Seed properties, small acreages would be areas in close to Aberdeen. That's also included lake properties. Some things like that are included in that. We are running a little low. We're seeing most of the places that we are low are at the lake, both Richmond Lake and Elm Lake, and both of those are going to got adjusted this year. There's another case where small areas got a big adjustment as opposed to big areas getting a small adjustment. Richmond Lake, Elm Lake are going to both take an increase this year. It's been a long time since we've done anything at Elm Lake. Richmond Lake's been about 3 or 4 years since we've done anything, but we're going to change some land values there pretty significantly. Some of the small residential subdivisions close to town are going to have some sales to support an increase or change there. Richmond Heights, Pleasant Valley, Fisher Estates, some of the things like that. Hadn't been a lot of sales there in the past few years to show us that they need to be treated like the rest of the small acreages, but 2016, those were pretty active markets with several sales that support some changes. Some of the small towns, again, we're going to change. Sarah worked Frederick. Frederick hadn't had any adjustments for a while. We got most of that on the CAMA system. And there again, so it kind of worked from scratch there. And so that's going to have some fluctuations up and down on the structures being during the CAMA. We did change some land value there. It hasn't been changed for a while, so property-wise, or at least land-wise, that's going to see some changes. Commercial property is probably one of the bigger projects coming up, and Russell's kind of spearheading a commercial reappraisal. It's kind of been on a maintain it as it's come on the new construction. These get new construction, everything on the books, but commercial is kind of a complicated problem to get into in that compared to residential property, all residential property is a house. You know, commercial property, you got from gas stations to malls to restaurants to everything, and all of them have a different occupancy, different market to them. They all have to be studied individually. To start with, we're kind of balancing out the land values, making sure that's up and where it needs to be, and then we're putting commercial on the CAMA as we're getting to it, kind of maybe one occupancy at a time. We'll let Russell talk about this, so we're just kind of heading that up a little bit here.
Yeah, land-wise, I guess I'm concentrating on 6th Avenue, mainly going west of the railroad tracks, west end of town, and then also, if you look about roughly Roosevelt Street going east to about out to Menards and Walmart, we're concentrating on trying to get the land to be more consistent, and you know, that's where our bigger land sales are for commercial property. Also probably looking to go accordingly off of 6th Avenue, mainly to the north on like a Roosevelt and Dakota Street and whatnot. Just trying to kind of level it out. Land-wise, you know. Also working on service garages and utility buildings throughout Aberdeen and surrounding Aberdeen Township and Bath Township, trying to get those equalized a little bit as well. So those are probably the two biggest projects for this assessment here.
Are you working mainly on the lots, or are you working on the buildings too?
For the service garages and the utility buildings, we're doing all structures.
Okay.
And then trying to conform the land. If we missed a little bit of land in certain spots, we're trying to catch that up. 6th Avenue, we're really trying to just get the land up a little on each end of town. The core from about M&H to Roosevelt's already pretty good. So we're trying to catch mainly the east end of town up with that, and the west end of town obviously not as desirable, but kind of got to equalize that land. Okay. Going that way. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say land to start with is a priority. And whether you have if you go on 6th Avenue, whether you have a restaurant or a hotel or whatever, land is land. So at least we're going to have to get that equalized to begin with, and then we'll start picking out occupancies at a time. Make sure we treat all the apartment complexes the same, and then treat all the maybe C-stores the same, and whatever. Kind of get, make sure that
get the basic first,
get
and then
the
work from
basic
that.
first, get the land right first, and then kind of go from there.
I appreciate that.
Commercials, like I said, CAMA went pretty fast on the residential. That was the easy part. The hard part's coming here, because each commercial occupancy is going to have a different market, a different study to look at. Some of them are going to have some sales on, apartments and things like that, and some there isn't ever going to be any sales on. So just kind of go from there.
Thank you.
But that's one of the things our goal is to get everything in there, so we can say, okay, all gas stations, we're going to raise 2%. And so we can go in and easily do that in this new system because all the data is built in. And that's a twofold solution. It helps us with our assessment, but it also helps people looking for information about these properties. We will then have that information on our Beacon site, you know, the square feet, the age, you know, what it's called, what it's got for amenities in it. That will all be in the Beacon site. And it's not that we don't want to talk to people, but every time we don't have to talk to people, they can click, jump in there, get what they want, and they like it. They like it. If you've talked to any people that have used our Beacon site, they are really liking it.
Any questions?
Are you done?
Pretty close. Most of the rest, mobile homes, last year again, all were on, the registration was over, they're all in real estate. This will be the second year of that. If we have any questions coming up, and we do, there's still people who think we come in and register, but that's no longer the case. Still trying to sign up more people to get their assessment notices by email. There again, if we can save some paper, and maybe this will get some more people to email us and get some more online going that way. And other than that, we're pretty close to done. Our ag land right now, under the new productivity, our sales ratio is just about 41% of what ag land is selling for versus what is assessed for versus what it's selling for. After our adjustments, we're seeing our non-ag, we expect our non-ag audit to come in somewhere right about 88%. The increases, currently we're at about 84. Like I had, we're going to be short of that 85. But with some increases through the city of Aberdeen, through small acreages, such like that, we're expecting our audit to come in at about 88%, and our factor to come in accordingly for that. And I think that pretty much, in a nutshell, covers what I have.
So that 40.9% according to sales ratio, is that the study you guys did on your sales?
That's the number, yes. That's the number that's
I didn't know if somebody else had done a
versus what
study.
we have. Those are actually numbers that are in come out statistically that you report out, our sales versus, or our assessments versus sales. There again, that's a number that's out of our control. That's productivity assessment versus sales. So, to that end, whether you're a proponent of productivity or sales or whatever, this is where we land, is about 40.
So it's just informational, because it doesn't really matter.
It's just
I was
information.
going to say, are you guys required to keep track of sales anymore?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Still do?
We still can't be assessed above market value, and that's where, we do have some places in the county that we go out and take a look at. There's, we do look at places on individual basis. If people come in and ask us or make a point that they feel we're above market value, or if township boards come in and say, there's this parcel that says there's no way it's going to sell for $4,000 an acre that you have it assessed for, we still have to be, below what the market is.
One of the things we use that number a lot for is attorneys. I have about 5 or 6 attorneys that will call and say, "What's your number this year, Mary?" And I know what they're looking for. They want to know our assessment level because they can use that for estate purposes. If they know we're assessing at 41% in 2016, they can use it to say, well, it was assessed at X, divide X by 41%. This is a number that the IRS will accept. And so we have a lot of attorneys. What's really interesting is we have a few years we kind of missed keeping track of this. Remember NAZ and AGY? the number that came out of the sales analysis represented after all those good sales were thrown out. And so for a few years, we kind of missed what reality was. Reality is 41% on the market. But we track that every year. So if somebody comes in 1965, where were we assessing? Can you give me a number? I'm probating my some estate. What was the number in that year? And we do track that.
Okay. Any questions for Mary or Jean? Well, thank you so much for putting the numbers together, and did you guys want a motion to?
Yes, that would be,
Okay.
that would be cool.
Moved by Commissioner Hanson,
Second.
and a second by Dwayne, to go ahead and, what is the motion? Follow the assessment plan?
Support the
Support
assessment plan.
Support the assessment plan. All right, any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Do that.
And this is not a result of my work or Jean's work. This is the entire office. Everybody pulls together to come up with this. Russell does a great job with commercial.
I heard you've been slacking off lately.
Well, you know, that's how you train people is,
About 2 days a week.
that you let people do the work and
Delegate.
delegate. I've always
There you
been a
go.
good delegator. Teach. Yeah, I'm not gonna teach anybody by doing it all myself. So,
Well, I
anyway.
appreciate everything you guys in the office do, and everything you've done, and good luck with everything in the future, Mary.
Well, thank you. We couldn't do it without your guys' support. This is a team effort, and only with your support can we do our job. And I appreciate it, and I know the staff appreciates it. So, thank you.
All right, thanks
Thank
much.
you.
And we do appreciate good support staff here, and IT, and
We have the final values in Beacon already for the assessed values. It says final.
not for 17, it does for
For just
16.
16.
16 is final.
But
We do
17
not
is-
publish 17 until we have all the numbers changed.
So
Because I don't want some of the 17 in. I would not want half of Tom's complex in and the other half not if I was increasing it.
Okay.
Because they would talk over coffee and say, how come Fishback didn't get an increase and we all did?
Well, it does.
Duh.
But when we finalize our values, which we're not done with yet, they will be published on Beacon, and they will go up as preliminary, because they're not final until till we clear peer after state board. So, great.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you much, have a great morning.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we've
Thank you.
got Kyle Zimmer with a camping contract appeal. Kyle, are you with us?
I am with you.
Good morning, how are ya?
Great, yourself?
Great.
Sorry to waste your time here with something so minuscule,
Oh,
but,
you're fine.
just here basically to appeal a decision by the Fair Board, but I lost the camping contract, not arguing anything, it was on the contract, I did not read the contract. Essentially what happened, I could not go to the fair this year. I rented out my spot to a friend of a friend. That's pretty much it, and that resulted in a 5-year loss of the contract. It's pretty extreme in my mind. I'm just trying to get that reversed so I can continue to go to the fair.
How long have you been at the fair camping?
6 years, give or take. I'm not positive.
Did you make money on the spot?
Lost money, as a matter of fact. I think the cost was $75, if I remember correctly. I got 60 out of it.
Was it primitive then?
Yes.
Any questions for Kyle?
And you were not aware that this was going to be a problem?
No.
You didn't read your contract?
I did not.
That's-
Read the
that's
front of
a
it,
problem.
didn't read the back, yeah.
That's a problem.
Kinda like those, online apps,
Yeah.
3 pages of stuff you don't read.
So how'd you find this?
What's
Derek,
that?
ask Derek.
It was, the policy was intended for the long-standing people that we found 2, let's say, that live in Arizona and never come back, and then are just kind of, continuing to hold on to the spot. So the camping group periodically checked throughout the week, and that's how they became aware of the situation.
Is the list of people on the wait list for hookups, is there availability right now for primitive? Can a person get a primitive spot right now?
There's technically 2, there's 2 wait lists now. There's one for the hookups and then one for primitive, so
And how many are on the primitive wait list?
about 111.
I gave up putting my app.
Kind of a tough one.
Has the Fair Board talked about this since it happened? Is there any additional information we need?
They discussed it and they voted to not motion to overturn. They voted to basically implement the policy. That's why Kyle's asked to review it.
Trying not to set a precedent is what they're trying to do, I would assume.
That's the problem.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what I'm afraid of is we say, oh, it's okay for you, we'll have 100 and some people in here.
And I get that.
So,
But
that's my feeling. You got 4 more here.
Yeah, and I mean, it's black and white, but at the same time, there's lots of things that are black and white. It's the equivalent
And I don't read all those
of
pages
chopping off
either.
somebody's hand for stealing a candy bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nancy's right. Since this shows up in the paper, there'll be 111 people in here.
Yeah. That's how I feel. And I feel like we need to support the Fair Board being, they're finally getting around to doing this.
Any other questions, comments? I'm in the same mindset, Kyle. I'd love to give you your spot back, but there's never been a recommendation from the Fair Board that I said, nope, we're not doing that. When you got a group of 15 to 25 volunteers that are taking so much time and effort to do what they do, it's tough for me to say no.
And I understand it. I mean, it's, ideally, they would just repeal that portion of the contract whatsoever, and they wouldn't have an issue going forward, but that's a whole other conversation.
Is there any desire for a motion?
I don't know if you need one.
Okay.
Do you? Matt?
Need a motion to approve or deny, or?
Just uphold the Fair Board's decision. I don't
Okay.
know.
Entertain a motion to uphold the Fair Board's decision.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion by Sutton, seconded by Hanson. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thanks for
Thanks
your
for
support of the
trying.
fair. All right, next on the agenda, 8:55, we have Shirley Johnson to discuss the contract. Is Shirley with us?
She's out there. Shirley? Shirley, you can have a chair.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Oh, I'm great. I got in touch with my sister-in-law out in Washington, and she wants to help me with a good share of the remaining balance.
Okay, bring us up to speed. What's the contract we're discussing? What are we looking at?
Well, I'm in a lot better position now to get caught up on the back taxes.
Okay.
I've got 2 people living with me, and one of them just took a second job this morning, so he's going to help me. My daughter is back. She is working at Jason's Auto Body, and I get a check every 3rd of the month. And my sister-in-law, I called her, and she's going to help out with a good share of it. She says to give you her phone number and get in touch with her. And if you don't, then I can call her too.
So where are we at with how far behind are we?
The contract for repayments was started after the state's attorney sent a letter at this time last year. The first 2 payments were made in time in March and April. The payments for May and June were each more than 60 days late. I called, I wrote her, and then nothing else was paid, 4 out of the 12. And wouldn't contact me, never got back to me, never did anything. One thing I did discover in all of this is the fact that she does not sign up for owner-occupied for all these years. I went down and talked to Barry in the county assessor's office, and he said that they have adjusted her value, and so her taxes for the year are down from about $1,500 to about $1,000, but all these years, she's not been signed up for owner-occupied. Like I say, my problem is, I mean, I can't keep going in this revolving door. I mean, I feel sorry for people too, but I can't monitor all these parcels. It's too much. You sign a contract, you're in a contract, you're out of contract. I don't know what.
What's the total number?
What else I can do?
What's the total number there now?
Right now, she's behind without the 2016, $7,600.
It's the last blue sheet if you guys have your packet.
And then the
from-
16 isn't on there yet.
We never got that.
It was about 4 weeks ago.
You
when
see,
Sheila
we're gone.
came
I
into us.
apologize, Nancy. You were gone and I didn't lay it on your desk. I can say that. Thank
What
you.
do I do with mine?
And that's fine, too. $7,600.
Yeah.
So
602.
realistically,
Gary,
what is
it's
their
the
payment
last
per
one.
month?
Well, it was supposed to be $500 a month. She paid $2,000 down, so then I ran through the 2015, so she didn't even have to make those current payments besides the contract. So she got a year break, but she just hasn't paid anything aside from 4 payments.
I didn't have any way to keep up with the payments. I had to eat, I had to, but now I can
Okay,
keep
tell
up.
us how much down can you give us and how much you want to pay a month?
Exactly the same, 500.
But are you capable of doing that?
Yes, I am now.
You said your sister was going to help you. She
My
gonna send...
sister-in-law.
Your sister-in-law, will she send you additional funds to pay up front, or is that just $500 a month starting?
As far as I know, in addition to my $500 a month, she's gonna pay some more.
Do you know a
She
dollar
said-
amount, or?
No, I don't. She said to have you call her. If you don't wanna call her, I can call her and find out.
Why don't you find out how much you can give us and come back next week?
I can do that.
Can she pay so much down? Is she willing to pay several
$2,000 or
$1,000s, you know?
I said, yes.
2, 3, 4,000 maybe?
Yes.
If you could get it
Yes.
down to like half, it'd probably be a little bit easier to reach that 500. So
Yes.
that means she'd have to come up with about
Can we put it off for a week,
$4,000.
Sheila?
Okay, I can tell her that.
You find out what you can give us and come back next week, we'll decide whether...
I can come back today and let Sheila
Maybe
know.
That'd be good.
I just gotta call her.
Okay.
They're about 2 hours behind us out in
We
Washington.
want to work with you, because we don't want people off on the street trying to figure out what to do, but on the other hand, we don't want to do a disservice to you by prolonging what's going to happen if you can't pay the taxes. So if you want to kind of get things in order, see where you're at financially, what she can help you with, come back to us with a concrete plan. The biggest part of it's going to be, like Commissioner Fishback said, a big down payment. Can we get $3,000, $4,000?
4,000.
And then what...
I can tell her that,
Okay,
Okay.
sounds great.
and
Well,
then I can, well, like I say, they're about 2 hours behind us out there in Washington. And
It's,
so, whenever I get, I'll call her today and I'll let Sheila know.
that
Okay.
sounds
Sounds
great.
good.
All right, well, thank you. We'll touch
We
base
need to
with
go to
you
the
then.
assessor's office and file the documents that should have been filed.
Oh, for the
Yeah.
owner-occupied.
Well, go with Mary and she'll have you sign that.
Okay,
We filled it out for her.
okay.
All you have to do is sign it.
Okay.
Such service in that office, Mary.
Well, here's an example of, this property's never come before us.
I've never heard of this
How long
document.
has she owned the property?
Since 2004. Was that a family purchase in 2004?
My mom and dad bought the house for us.
And she's the owner now, or?
My husband passed away, so,
Yes. In 2004, it went into the
Ah.
Johnson name.
Okay.
Yeah, just the date today, 17th, there you go. So for 17, she's going to be an owner-occupied.
Okay.
And we did, so, but here's an example of somebody falling through the cracks. I always wonder why people don't know this, but they don't.
I didn't know I had to sign one of them.
You don't have to.
Title or
You don't
whatever
have
the
to
title
sign it. It
gets
just
changed, they
helps
should be
if you do.
telling people.
Oh, okay.
Yep, yep, it's a tax break.
taxes, so.
I've never heard of that.
And it's
Okay.
on your assessment notice every year.
Okay.
Well, thank you for coming in, and we'll be in touch soon, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Now, anybody want some puppies?
Oh, my goodness.
You're out of here.
My brother-in-law's pug got together with my lab collie dachshund.
Well, that's kind of mixed.
Everybody wants puppies. All right, next on the agenda, 9 o'clock.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Very nice to meet you. Chris White, State's Attorney, to discuss the jail population. How's it going, Chris?
You were showing up. That's what happens there.
Yeah. Do that over.
Morning, gentlemen.
If I have the sheriff sit with me?
Sure.
We got
Oh,
the
you
butt.
scared of us, or?
Yeah, he's here for protection. So, you guys know that the jail population has been steady around 60 and even up to 77. So I thought last Wednesday, January 11th, I thought I'd pull the numbers and for the first time actually go through every single inmate and figure out what they're doing in custody. I mean, there's been times generally we look at our in-custody sheet and figure out, you know, kind of ballpark the numbers. This is the first time I actually sat down with Craig Nelson from the jail, and we spent a good 2.5 hours going through it. I spent all day Wednesday trying to figure out, pulling our files and looking what they're doing in custody. And the numbers are interesting. So on January 11th, last Wednesday, we had 74 people in custody. This was a couple days after that high number of 77, and that's kind of what sparked my attention to it. Tom had asked Larry about it, and I thought, you guys ask enough times about the jail population, we'll figure out what the problem is. So 74 in custody on January 11th. The numbers are surprising. 5 of the 74 are people that were held on bond violations. So somebody that shows up in magistrate court or even circuit court and they get a bond set by a judge, they go out and the judge finds that they had violated it, so he puts them back into custody. And that's 1 violation all the way up to 6, 7, 8, which isn't uncommon. And at that point, depending on the crime, if it's some kind of dangerous crime and they're violating bond, most judges hold them because they can't follow the court's rules. They're a danger to the community. So 5 people. 3 people out of the 74 were held on bench warrants, meaning Judge Anderson sentenced somebody to a misdemeanor and they violated their conditions, like they didn't go to treatment or they didn't go to domestic violence class. So then he puts out a new bench warrant, what the courts call an order to show cause. So only 3 people on that. There were 4 people that were non-Brown County people that were either sentenced to DOC or from another state. They were going on transport, just waiting for the transport to come through. So only 4 on that. There was 4 juveniles, which you guys know a lot about the juvenile system, and there's not a whole heck of a lot we can do about that. This is where the numbers get interesting. I think most of us think of our county jail as a place for somebody that's sitting out their sentence. They get sentenced and they're punished. You know, for deterrence and punishment, we have to have the jail punishment. And we had 9 people sitting out a sentence, which I thought would be a lot higher because you have people get sentenced every day. So not a lot of people are getting jail time, or the numbers aren't driving the jail population up from sentence time, which I thought was odd. There was 17 people sitting on a new charge. They had a bond because they're currently charged with a felony. Most of them are felonies, or they're awaiting a sentence. We have about 3 people, like a first-degree rape case. We're waiting for a psychosexual to be done. That guy is held in custody because he's looking at life in prison. The judge is going to hold him until sentence. We had the gentleman that was found guilty at a jury trial right before Christmas. He's being held for a lot of different reasons. But there's a couple people that are awaiting sentence. So total sitting a sentence or awaiting a sentence or a new charge is 26 people. So 26 people, really what I think what our county jail is for. Out of our 74, 26 are that reason. Even more interesting are probation people. There was 19 people out of the 74 that are currently on felony probation that we're holding in our jail. Now, you go back before Senate Bill 70, which was July of 2013, that's when they made the presumptive probation, a whole list of criminal convictions that you get presumptive probation for, so you get probation. Before that, my experience, there was probably more petition to revoke probation that were filed. So I don't think the probation number has necessarily gone up. I think it's probably been pretty steady if we go back to before 2013. I think we're probably around the 20 range still, maybe a little less, and I say a little less because now that presumptive probation's a thing, no one wants to plead guilty or take any plea agreements, because why would you when you can go in and argue presumptive probation? So it jams up the system for the counties, not the state. The one that really sticks out to me is the parole folks. Out of the 74, 13 people are on parole. So if you put parole and probation together, 31 of our 74 people are currently on felony supervision, either by probation, state, or parole DOC.
32, right?
31. Unless I'm sorry, 32. I'm adding that wrong.
Is
Yeah.
that parole violators you mean, or what do you mean by parole?
So they're currently on parole. They don't necessarily violate them now since Senate Bill 70. They got a new parole grid. They don't violate them until they're convicted. So they're on parole, they catch a new charge. For example, somebody goes out and sells methamphetamine that are on parole. They get put in our jail. What our judges typically look at is, you know, the person's already on, sat in the penitentiary, got their treatment, did their time, they get out on parole, and now they're committing a crime of violence or selling drugs or something. What do you do with them? And the community would be up in arms if those people were not sitting in custody. Now, before Senate Bill 70 and before that parole grid changed, those people weren't sitting in our custody. They were in custody, but they got sent straight back to the penitentiary. Now they don't do that. They do on specific cases. If we have a guy that is charged with a first-degree burglary that's on parole, they can do an extended detainer and they send them back to the penitentiary. So there's a few of them that go back, but you can see with 14 people there that are on parole, not a lot of them are going back. So, I mean, if you take those numbers...
So those people basically had all been in prison?
If you're on parole, you've been in prison. Yep, you have to parole out. They have all been in prison.
Nice rate, huh?
Yep.
Didn't learn much down there, huh?
No. So the problem, I mean, you can clearly see just under half of our inmates are probation or parolees. So it's interesting to look at it that way. I sat down with Craig and I've talked to the sheriff. I think the point of all of this is to, tell you guys the jail population, break it down that way for you to really figure out what the problem is. I've told you my opinion why. I think a lot of it has to do with Senate Bill 70. We've said since day one the state's putting the expenses back on the county. Unfortunately, I don't think that was their intent, but unfortunately that's been the outcome. And there's a lot of people that are involved with it in the legislature, the state, that I think they would agree with that. The problem is they didn't want to build a new penitentiary. So we'll jam up our jail for it. I mean, it's really what it's come down to. It's not just Brown County. There was an article in Coddington County's paper, the Watertown paper, that this is shocking to me. The jail population that on January 7th in Watertown, 96. The day, it was right around that day we had 77. They had 96. The article says that 88 of those 96 were actually Coddington County cases, so they're about on par with us because there's only about 4 of ours that weren't Brown County cases. They have a 62-bed capacity built in 1974. So they were 34 inmates above their capacity. So I can tell you our criminal filings are a lot higher than Watertown's, but their jail population's a lot higher than ours, so I don't know what that tells you. I think it's important to go through that with you guys so you can figure out what you want to do in the future. I'm here to tell you, and I think the sheriff and Craig Nelson would agree with me, it's not going to go down drastically. It's just not. Some of the legislation that I see is getting proposed is probably going to cause it to go up. And I say that because they're trying to do, I think it may have even been in the governor's package that he proposed, they want to have the probation grid to say that if you get arrested or if you get detained by probation for having a positive methamphetamine urine analysis test, that you get a mandatory 3 or 4 days custody. That's custody in the county jail. That happens all the time. All the time. I mean, we have probationers that have some kind of positive UA, at least the ones I know about. It happens pretty frequently.
And really, what is 3 or 4 days to these people? I mean, unless it's something solid that's long-term, they don't care. It's worth the risk. It's worth the risk to them.
It may be. I mean, there's a lot of studies that you hear people throw around that say swift consequences like that, and, you know, specific ones that you get put in jail right away. It's supposed to help. I don't know. I don't know who does those studies.
So is there any game plan from your association, the state's attorney, to go to the legislature this year and say, hey, is there a few changes we could make that would help some of this?
I think from the State's Attorneys Association, I think we've done all we can. I'm on the board, so I kind of hear some of the inside stuff on some of the meetings. The way I understand it is, it's kind of this dam that we've stopped it from breaching over the wall, because what they were going to do is they were proposing to extend Senate Bill 70 even further than it was before. So more crimes would fall under presumptive probation. That we've prevented that successfully. It sounds like, obviously it hasn't went through the legislature yet, but it sounds like that'll probably be stopped. The other thing that is going to come, and I think a lot of us will go out and testify against it, is there's some talk about making methamphetamine possession or ingestion a misdemeanor. So just like smoking marijuana, it'd be a misdemeanor, which would completely take away drug courts in South Dakota. And to be completely honest, drug courts, a lot of our jail population too, people that have a quick punishment for drug court, they get thrown in the county jail, not the penitentiary. But making methamphetamine a misdemeanor, I could go on for 10 meetings about the problems that could cause. But it's going to come, it's just, we got to prevent it.
Any of these inmates, would they qualify for anything besides the jail if they had like an ankle bracelet or anything?
And that was the last thing I was going to hit on, Doug. I think that's up to you guys what you want to do to look into the other options. There's certainly other options, and that's one of the things the sheriff and I discussed is some other counties use ankle monitoring, like a GPS monitor, and I don't know how it works, but ideally, if it really works this way, I think it would be good. If you could put it on somebody's ankle, and if they cut it off, I think an alarm, tampering alarm goes off. If they leave the vicinity of their home or their property, it would go off. But these people, some of these people could, I think, would be covered and probably wouldn't be necessarily a danger or a flight risk if they were on home detention. Well, so that would be great. I don't know.
The guy that's doing the drug thing and he gets 3 days in jail, would he be a candidate for something like that? Because, I mean, he's only going to be there 3 days and he's released again anyway. I mean, it seems like you're flooding our jail for a 3-day sentence, which he doesn't care about, but, you know...
Or the 32 people on probation or parole, could they slap one on their ankle? I don't know. The other option, obviously, the last thing you want to do is build a new jail. Cottington County's talking about it. I think that's a potential, and I'm not advocating for any of these. I just think there's other options. The other one would be, do you do some kind of facility for low security inmates?
We've looked at that.
Yeah. Do we use ankle bracelets now? Do we have anything that we use ankle?
We just use it for PBTs, stuff like that.
Scram bracelet.
Yeah. And I talked with the Sheriff's Association is contracted with a company that has the bracelets. They cost $3.50 a day. Yeah, it's real simple to go through, real simple run. I've talked with this sheriff out in Pennington County, Kevin told me, send me all the information I have, and I'm going to sit down with Chris and go through it and then bring it back, because I just got the information on Friday from him. But
I was talking to a sheriff's deputy in Minnesota, a friend of mine, and he was telling me they use ankle bracelets a lot in Minnesota. The numbers there too, you know, jails, how many times you're going to have to rebuild a jail.
And it's my understanding parole has quite a bit of these GPS ankle bracelets already, and our parole office, I was told by somebody, has 5 or 6 on hand. Yeah. So maybe it's something, you know, the parolees, the 13 or 14 or so, maybe they could put, there's probably some that can't, to be completely honest, they just can't. But
how much a day does it cost for us to house a prisoner now?
Oh.
About?
150?
Well, yeah, I mean, it just, you know,
Yeah, and it's $3.50 a day compared to
well, we're
100.
looking, you know, work release people,
Yeah.
you know, where we just monitor them when they're out. They can't go, there's certain rules and criteria they have to live by, and if they see it, if they cross the line or anything, then they can come back for
Right.
1 or 2 days, and then if they do it again, they never get it again, you know.
Are the state prisons full?
I don't know that answer.
It sounds to me like it'd be cheaper for the taxpayer to build more on a prison, and all these counties have to build more jails.
Right.
I would encourage you folks to go to your county commission associations and talk about this stuff. We need to all team up. Our association...
This is our state president.
There he is. And I know you guys have talked about it, but if we can all, you know, go out to Pierre and go against some of this legislation, it would help the counties. I mean, the counties are getting
So I think
stuff. That's no
parolees
secret.
should go head back to the state prison, in my opinion.
I mean, if you go back before 2013, we would have maybe 1 or 2 parolees in custody because they're here for some hearing that they have. That's it. Otherwise, they're in prison. So if you run the numbers on 10 to 13 extra people that we wouldn't have had back then,
We'd be okay.
you're saving all kinds of money.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that has gone straight back to the county's expense.
Could I ask something? I don't know the answer to this, I should. Does the state reimburse Brown County Jail when they put their parolees in custody there?
Yeah, it depends on what violation, and they put a detainer on her after he's been arrested, no, because we arrested him first, you know, but if they do a detainer, then there is a bill.
And I got...
What do they pay?
Oh, I'd have to look at it, probably 60 or 60 something.
I think it's right around $75.
But
Here's what I do know, the people for parole, there's one of the people that are in custody right now that have a detainer on them. So we were getting paid for that person, one person out of the 13 or 14. The other ones, the vast majority of the other ones, have a detainer put on them right away. Then they go into court with our judge on our new charge, and he sets a bond. When he sets a cash bond, or cash or surety bond, not a PR bond, something that's going to hold the person or they're going to have to post. Once that happens, parole pulls their detainer back. And they do that because now they don't have to pay for it. I mean, it's smart of them to do it. They don't have to pay us for it. But now they're being held on our bond. Now, it happens sometimes where the person posts our bond, and then the detainer gets slapped back on them, and now they're sent back to the penitentiary. But out of the 14, there's only one with the detainer.
I'd like to know more about those ankle bracelets.
I'll email that packet to you guys.
Could you?
Look at it.
We definitely need to check into that, if that's something that
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
we
pretty
use.
cool.
The bigger thing is, how do you make that work in conjunction with the jail, probation, parole, the judicial system? I don't know. I think everybody needs to kind of get involved with it. So I don't know if it's something where you try to put a committee together to study this stuff, but I just felt like it's my job to at least come here and tell you guys it's not going to change anytime soon.
Yeah.
The jail population's not going away in a year from now. It's going to be just as bad, if not worse. I mean, it's nice that we're down to 60 now. That's sure nice.
Well, if the growth that you seem to, we haven't seen the last few years, we could double what we have now. And then in a few years, we'll have to triple it, and it'll just keep growing.
Yeah, and crime's up.
Yeah, crime's up. I mean, this
Methamphetamine.
drug stuff is, and I think they need to be locked
Besides that,
up.
it's cold out.
Well, in the 70s, around the holidays,
Yeah.
around the holidays, right after the holidays, the number jumps up because people are going to sit their time. But I've talked to judges about reporting dates. We've done everything we can to try to keep the number down, and I think it's telling that our number's quite a bit lower than Coddington's. Coddington has a higher capacity, though. They have the 62. You know how it works. The higher
Build it as
capacity.
it
You just fill it up.
If you build it, it'll get filled up.
Yeah.
Well, and with those 13, it's easy to differentiate when it comes to the ankle bracelets, which are just hurting themselves and which are the sellers. Because we wouldn't want to slap an ankle bracelet on somebody who's just going to sell it to other people anyway.
Yeah, but if they're sitting in their mom's basement using it, they're not necessarily a danger to anybody but
Right,
themselves. Can we put a
absolutely.
bracelet on them?
So you put the parole, the probation,
Some counties are looking at pretrial people too, so.
Oh, I think you could
Yeah.
do pretrial people.
Yeah.
We have some.
I'm just looking at the numbers, and we get down to a more reasonable, usable figure.
I think you could. I think the other thing is, it's just like bond. Somebody gets out, I mean, at least about half of them are going to have some kind of violation. So
Yeah.
then it is, they're back in and they're off the bracelet. And, you know, they pay, I don't know how much they pay up front for it. Because like Scram, you pay good chunk of the money up front. And the defendant has to afford it too.
So in South Dakota, is there a jail system or a department that's using this bracelet system that we could confer with and find out kind of?
Yeah, that's in that packet, actually, so I haven't had a chance to go through it all.
Okay.
But it pretty much tells you what they do, how the work release, if there's gonna be pre-trial, and all, I haven't gone through this,
The way work release works, I think, the day I checked the numbers, there's only like 3 or 4 on work release.
Really?
Which is kind of unusual, right?
It's better.
But people that are getting out for work release, it's kind of hard to argue they're a flight risk or maybe even a danger to the community if you're letting them out for 8 hours out of a day. So the work release people would make sense. But, I mean, I've seen people I thought was a danger and asked for no work release and they get it, so it just depends on the person.
Yeah, if you would send us that packet, we'll kind of do a little research on our end, and maybe that a committee might not be a bad idea, but I think it should be more extensive than,
I think there's a lot of other options that need to be explored, but I think you guys are the ones that get paid the big bucks to figure
Where
that
to
out.
start.
Yeah.
We're
Sounds
just the
great.
sheriff and the state's attorney.
Well, thank you guys
Yeah,
for
thank
bringing in
Good
the info.
information.
Thanks for the info, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we've got Scott Mites, Emergency Management Director, and Robin Bobzien with the Aberdeen City
Morning.
to discuss emergency
Morning, Robin.
levy plan.
Morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. How's it going?
Good.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
I believe you all should have got a copy last week of the draft that Robin's put together. Got it all read?
Yep. Everybody's read everything.
Why, is there a test?
Yeah.
Oops.
This is kind of an outline of the things that I thought we should just go through and make sure that everybody's comfy. Seems like we've got a plan for everything. This one is specific to our levy system. We want to make sure that we have a plan should something not go exactly according to Hoyle. For the levy system is, it's a physical structure, and there could be failures. I see you've got a plan out here for pipe stem and Jamestown dams. Just about every one of these systems has some kind of a plan. So this is our answer. This was based on a Corps of Engineers template, and really, what it boils down to is it's going to provide for the city and the county to be the ones that have the jurisdiction over this. We've got the authority to take care of things. We're looking to save life and property. Should something go haywire on us, we've got to make sure we have a plan in place. It defines roles and responsibilities, including the county commission. Scott would be the incident commander, and really what it boils down to is, the way it's put together is how we've operated in the past. I believe we've opened that EOC at least twice, if not 3 times, for flood-type emergencies in the spring, or as we recall, the May 7th incident in 2007. A lot of the stuff is really trying to be proactive on letting people behind the levee know that there are some risks involved, and that they need to take some precautions if possible, and give them some options on what they could do to help themselves, because when things do go bad, there's too many places to go at once for the public agencies to be able to help everyone behind those levees. We would want to do more public hearings and things in conjunction, probably with the city council, because most of these folks are within city limits. It calls for guidelines for when the EOC is activated. Same as how we would normally do it, and actually what the plan is to pull from a list of people that Scott already has for logistics planning, finance, things of that nature. It has a long list of folks like Salvation Army, all the different folks that may need to be involved if we need to provide meals for people, or maybe get folks some housing for the time being, like we did in 2007. It also has checklists. It has lists of all the equipment that we have to try to make sure that
that the logistics folks know what we have available if something should happen. We need pumps, we need sandbags, things like that. And this really is, this planning is being done in conjunction with some of the stuff we're doing for maintenance and repair on the levee. We'll need to do some additional flood training. There again, have the identification of emergency supplies and equipment, which I just mentioned. We have found a number of voluntary trees that have grown up on the levee that we need to deal with. We've also got some farming activities that are encroaching into the right-of-way, so we're going to have to do some surveying and get some fence posts out there to identify that and make sure that we keep folks off the area that has public jurisdiction. Rodent control's been a really interesting thing. We have put a ton of effort into trying to control gophers and voles and moles and all kinds of different stuff out there, and for the life of me, the harder we try, I think they're multiplying. I think we're breeding them instead of killing them. So there's a lot of effort going into it right now, and of course those little varmints are putting holes in your levee, which is a bad thing. So we're going to have to go back and repair some of those items as well. There's paperwork that needs to go into the Corps that's related, actually, ironically, going back to when the levee was built. There were things that were put in that they didn't show in their as-built plans, and so things that were built as part of the project, now we have to go back and document that it actually was there before, and it wasn't a modification or alteration that we had done. And we're going to end up needing to put in a few flap gates. Just wanted to let you know that the city has been working with FEMA on a community rating system which would help us reduce the flood insurance costs. It's kind of like fire, the ISO ratings for fire. If you're in town right now, you have an ISO rating of 4, and probably if you're out in the county, you've got an ISO rating of 10. 10 basically means that rural fire will get there when they can, and they're not able to. Yeah, you're on your own. This basically says that there are other provisions in place for that levy, and we may be able to get some reduction in flood insurance for folks in town based on that. And last but not least, we're going to be having some discussions with some of the utility companies and James River Water, maybe to see if there's areas of collaboration that we could utilize as part of this, and maybe some funding for some of the maintenance activities that we're doing. So a lot of it has to do with the fact that we pulled a lot of things out of Scott's plans. This is actually taking information from a lot of the county's plans already and trying to incorporate it into the Corps' template. So this is a draft at this point. We are looking to have some tweaks to it, I guess, if you will, over the next couple of months so that we can present a final format to the Corps. And of course, most of that I think will come. Most of those comments will probably come from Scott's office. So, if you have any questions or comments on it, please by all means get a hold of Scott or myself, and we'll try to make sure we can address it if you think things are not laid out the way they should.
Are you guys kind of predicting some flood in the spring, or?
Not yet. The official flood from the National Weather Service outlook won't come out till mid-February.
But you kind of mentioned in one of your emails that
obviously there's some things to keep an eye on. You know, the snowpack water equivalent above the Jamestown dams is higher than what I would call normal. The things that concern me, and Robin and I were talking about this morning, you know, we had the water issue east of Ellendale, and that filled Pheasant Lake in Dickey County, and Elm Lake is still full. You know, so there are some things kind of against us. I wouldn't say we're not in a drastic flood mode, but we sure are definitely going to keep an eye on it.
Could be a lot of snow yet too.
Exactly. I was just going to say the snowy months are yet to come. So, you know, it all depends on what the thaw does and how fast, you know, water comes from the north.
A little early to predict, I guess.
I'm glad we don't live a little further west, because the stuff coming out of the Bismarck area, that's going to be a mess. So, but yeah, we are watching it. So
Is this a new plan, or the Corps is required you to dust off an old one?
No, this is a new plan. This is something that they're requiring of communities that have levee systems now within their programs. So, yes, we are having to do this, and it's something that probably should have been done anyway. You know, a lot of Scott's plans, Scott and I were